There's this highly specific sound that a college football stadium makes when a massive earth-shattering upset is unfolding.
Oh, yeah, it's not a roar, right.
Exactly. It isn't a roar at all. It's this collective, stunned murmur, like
Yeah.
80,000 people simultaneously whispering to the person next to them, like, wait, is this actually happening?
Yeah, the sound of absolute certainty just kind of evaporating.
Right into the autumn air. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. You, our listener, have essentially dropped a chaotic, thrilling sports radio switchboard right into our laps today.
A very volatile ecosystem, to say the least.
Completely. We're looking at this snapshot of week 1 of the 2042 season, and we've got box scores that defy logic, fiery post-game quotes, historical championship brackets, Heisman watch lists.
And that one very peculiar character profile.
Yes, a character profile from a role-playing game, which, weirdly enough, actually holds the key to understanding the most dangerous offense in the country right
Yeah,
now.
it really does.
So our mission today is to decode these early signals. We're going to break down the technical anatomy of a massive takedown, the terrifying mechanics of a reloading dynasty, and what it really takes to survive in a landscape where the margins for error have, completely vanished.
They are gone.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the defending kings of the mountain and their sudden, fall from grace.
The West Virginia takedown. I mean, this is the perfect case study in how quickly championship pedigree can just be neutralized by a single structural flaw.
I am looking at the historical bracket data you provided us, and it sets the stage so dramatically. West Virginia entered 2042 as the undefeated, 16-0 undisputed defending 2041 national champions under head coach Josh Moore.
The heavyweights.
The undisputed heavyweights. And in week 1, they get completely stunned by number 5 Oregon, losing 26-14. Now, I have to throw a hypothesis at you right away.
Okay, let's hear it.
A team that goes 16-0 and wins the title against USC just last year, they don't simply forget how to play football overnight.
No, they don't.
It feels like West Virginia bought into their own invincibility. Or perhaps they suffered a massive championship hangover. Because you don't just lose that level of execution when the calendar flips, right?
Well, you certainly don't lose the raw athletic talent, but you can absolutely lose your schematic integrity.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
The analytics from the sources you gathered paint an incredibly clear picture of what happened. Oregon didn't, out-athlete West Virginia. They simply identified a fatal schematic vulnerability and exploited it ruthlessly.
The receiver stats, right.
Exactly. West Virginia's entire wide receiver core had under 200 total yards combined for the entire game.
Which in modern college football, throwing for under 200 yards as a unit is basically a death sentence.
It is. The leading receiver maxed out at just 55 yards. There were multiple drops. There was absolutely no yards after catch threat. But, and this is the most damning metric of all.
The explosive plays.
Right, the explosive play chart. West Virginia had 0 plays over 25 yards. None. Oregon's defense just systematically erased the deep ball from the playbook.
See, I understand the deep ball is flashy, right? It gets on the highlight reel. But teams methodically march down the field all the time using quick game concepts. Why does losing that one vertical element cause an entire championship machine to just, seize up and stall?
Think about the geometry of a football field.
Okay.
When an offense lacks a true number 1 receiver, someone with the sheer speed to blow past the secondary and threaten a 60-yard touchdown, the defense no longer has to respect the space behind them.
So they compress the field.
Exactly. The safeties stop playing 20 yards deep and start creeping down into the box. The linebackers stop dropping into deep zones and start sitting aggressively on all those underneath crossing routes.
So it just gets incredibly crowded.
Right. The passing windows that were wide open for West Virginia last year suddenly had a defender flashing right through them.
It's the gridiron equivalent of playing basketball without a three-point shooter.
That is a great analogy.
The defense just packs the paint, clogs the driving lanes, and dares you to try and force the ball into a wall of bodies. You end up suffocating yourself.
And the Oregon defensive captain spelled it out flawlessly in his post-game quote. He said, "We knew if we took away the deep ball, they'd struggle." That's exactly what happened.
Brutally honest.
They pressed the receivers to the line of scrimmage and dared them to win a foot race, knowing they couldn't. And to his credit, West Virginia's coach, Josh Moore, didn't hide from the reality of the tape either.
Yeah, he took ownership.
He admitted, we didn't stretch the field. That's on us. We'll fix it. But, if they don't find a player on that roster who can stretch the defense vertically, this analytics breakdown suggests they could plummet from title favorites to irrelevance very quickly.
And that kind of systemic failure at the top of the rankings creates a massive power vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, and college football absolutely despises one. Into that void steps a team that seems to have looked at West Virginia's suffocating offensive struggles and decided to abandon the concept of a balanced game script entirely.
They went the opposite direction.
Completely. They traded defense for pure, unadulterated firepower.
We are moving from a game of inches and suffocation to an absolute unhinged track meet.
The contrast is totally jarring. While West Virginia is struggling to manufacture a single first down, number 2 USC and number 8 LSU are out there having a 60-minute shootout.
Right. USC edges out a 46-44 victory.
Connecting this to the historical data you shared reveals a brilliant narrative thread. USC is the exact same team that West Virginia beat 28-14 in last year's national championship.
Yes.
West Virginia held them to a miserable 14 points on the biggest stage in the sport. Fast forward to week 1 of the new season, and USC drops 46 points on a top 10 SEC opponent in LSU.
They are proving, loudly, that their offense remains incredibly elite, even if they ran into a buzzsaw last January.
The mindset behind the strategy is fascinating. I love the quote from USC's quarterback Carter Williams.
Oh, it's so telling.
By the way, Williams is sitting at number 2 on the 2042 Heisman watch list right now as a junior. He said after the game, "We knew it was going to be a track meet. Last team with the ball wins."
Yeah.
I'm looking at that mentality, and I can't help but wonder if this is ultimately a house of cards. Just accepting that your defense is going to get shredded and trusting that you can outrun the other guy on every single possession.
It's risky.
It feels like you are voluntarily walking a tightrope over a volcano.
It requires immense psychological resilience from the quarterback, that's for sure. Every single time LSU scored, the pressure on Carter Williams doubled.
Because he has to match it.
He knew a single 3-and-out could cost them the game.
Yeah.
Surviving a track meet like that proves you have an elite, high-functioning offense, which is an absolute prerequisite for a modern title run.
Yeah.
But living on that razor's edge week in and week out usually catches up to you. A bad bounce, a holding penalty that sets you back 10 yards and kills a drive, and suddenly the math doesn't work in your favor anymore. You don't have the ball last.
West Virginia proved last year that defense still wins championships when the chips are down. USC is trying to prove you can just outscore the flaws in your armor.
Exactly.
But while hanging 46 points on LSU is a massive flex, it frankly looks like child's play compared to the most mind-bending statistic you included in this entire stack of notes.
I know exactly what you're about to bring up.
Because there is a team out there that doesn't just win shootouts. They completely break the scoreboard.
I had to read the box score 3 times to make sure it wasn't a typographical error.
Right. You look at the scores for week 1, and everything looks relatively normal, and then you see this anomaly staring back at you. Number 3, Tennessee obliterated Oregon State.
Obliterated.
121-6. Yes. 121 points in a single regulation football game.
To understand how a collegiate program physically manifests 121 points against a Division I opponent, we have to look at the terrifying dynasty they've built in Knoxville.
Let's do it.
According to the championship charts provided under head coach Sir Emperor, Tennessee isn't just a football team. They are an industrial machine.
A factory.
They have secured national titles in 2032, 2033, 2036, 2037, and 2039.
Sir Emperor is running a factory down there for sure, and the guy currently operating the main control panel is Peyton O'Brady.
Heisman frontrunner.
Yeah, he's a 99 overall senior quarterback out of Cincinnati, Ohio. He currently leads the Heisman race, and his stats from this 121-point game are staggering.
Read them off.
He threw for 452 yards, 8 touchdowns, had a 69% completion rate, and averaged an unbelievable 18.1 yards per attempt.
Let's linger on that 18.1 yards per attempt metric for a second, because that is the key to the entire operation.
Okay.
That means, mathematically, every single time the ball left O'Brady's hand, Tennessee was netting almost 2 full first downs. They aren't throwing little bubble screens or 5-yard hitches and hoping the receiver breaks a tackle. They are relentlessly attacking the intermediate and deep intermediate levels of the field, constantly putting the defense in absolute peril. It is catastrophic efficiency.
And his post-game quote sends a chill down your spine. He just casually stated, "We don't rebuild, we reload."
Chilling is the right word.
It's not just lip service either. His primary weapon, wide receiver Calvin Hovell Johnson, is right behind him in the Heisman race at number 3.
Right, with Carter Williams at USC sandwiched between them.
Exactly. So Tennessee boasts the number 1 and number 3 Heisman candidates on the exact same offensive unit.
That phrase, "we don't rebuild, we reload," implies a system that completely transcends individual players. It speaks to an elite quarterback pipeline, airtight systemic consistency, and overwhelming recruiting dominance.
It's plug and play.
When a star graduates and heads to the pros, they don't scramble to replace him. They simply install the next highly calibrated piece of machinery they've been developing in the background.
But the logistics of scoring 121 points still baffle me. How does an offense move that fast in reality? How do 11 college kids process information that flawlessly to hang that kind of number on an opponent?
Well, to explain this, we have to talk about the absolute most unorthodox, brilliant clue you provided in this stack of sources.
The role-playing character sheet.
Yes, the RPG sheet.
Nestled right between the Dynasty Central Top 25 rankings and the Heisman watch list, you included a highly detailed character profile for an RPG game.
Such a wild inclusion.
It's for a 24-year-old class called a Vanguard. His name is Luck, he's nicknamed the Thunderbird, and he comes from a family of thieves.
Right.
When I first saw this, I thought you accidentally mixed up your weekend tabletop gaming notes with your college football spreadsheets.
Anyone would think that.
But then I looked closely at Luck's specific abilities, and I realized it wasn't a mistake at all. This character sheet is the absolute perfect analogy for how this Tennessee offensive machine operates on the field.
It maps onto their on-field philosophy with surprising accuracy. Walk through the mechanics of the analogy.
Okay, so this Vanguard character, Luck, utilizes a rhyme scheme of special powers. Let's translate these directly to Tennessee's football scheme. First, there's Mach, which allows Luck to move around at the speed of sound.
The tempo.
Yes. In football terms, this perfectly mirrors Tennessee's suffocating high-speed tempo. They don't huddle, they sprint to the line of scrimmage and snap the ball with 25 seconds still left on the play clock.
The physical toll of that Mach tempo is devastating. The opposing defense cannot substitute players. Those 300-pound defensive tackles are trapped on the field, gasping for air, their hands on their knees.
They just get worn down.
Exactly. By the third quarter, the opponent's legs literally give out, and the tackling fundamentals completely deteriorate. Tempo is utilized as a blunt force weapon.
Next in the rhyme scheme is Clock, which allows Luck to slow down his perception of time so he can see and dodge incoming attacks.
This is my favorite part of the analogy.
It's a brilliant metaphor for what Peyton O'Brady is doing as a pure pocket passer. He isn't actually slowing down time, obviously, but his mental processing is so elite that the game appears to be moving in slow motion for him.
He sees everything.
The defensive line is swarming, the stadium is screaming, but O'Brady's internal clock is serene.
He is diagnosing the defensive coverage before the ball is even snapped. He knows exactly where the blitz is coming from, which means he knows exactly which receiver is hot.
Right.
He steps up into the pocket a half second before the edge rusher arrives, completely unbothered by the chaos, and delivers a strike. He is manipulating time and space within the pocket.
And finally, there's Shock. This power allows the character to wrap his body in powerful electricity, making his strikes devastating.
With the playmakers.
That is the ultimate metaphor for the explosive yards-after-catch capability of wide receiver Calvin Hovell Johnson. When he touches the football in open space, the energy shifts.
Oh, absolutely.
He catches a simple slant route, makes one microscopic electric cut to evade a safety, and suddenly he's gone for a 60-yard touchdown. Mach, clock, shock, tempo, processing speed, and explosive agility. That is the Tennessee offense.
And the backstory provided for that character adds another fascinating layer to the analogy. The notes specify that Luck was the youngest child in his family of thieves.
Oh, right.
He wasn't the cleverest, he wasn't the strongest, and he wasn't even the sneakiest. His defining trait was simply that he was fast, very, very fast.
Just pure speed.
His speed evolved to a point where he could get in and rob a place before his older siblings even arrived at the scene. That is the psychological warfare Tennessee is waging on the gridiron.
They are stealing the game script before the defense can even get their cleats set in the turf.
Exactly.
By the time the opposing linebackers realize what hit them, they look up at the scoreboard, and they are already down by 21 points in the first quarter.
They aren't relying on wildly complex trick plays or gimmicks. They are just executing their base system with such overwhelming velocity that the opponent's defensive game plan is rendered obsolete before it can even be deployed.
But Tennessee isn't just using this velocity to steal wins on the field. They are weaponizing this massive rolling momentum to steal the future of the sport right out from under their rivals' noses.
Recruiting.
Yes, because while Tennessee is humming along at a historic level, we are seeing severe cracks forming in the foundation of other major programs.
The contrast between a team with a clear identity and teams struggling to find one is stark right now. South Carolina serves as a prime example of the latter.
Yeah, that was a rough game.
They just suffered a massive red flag upset, losing 20-17 to Arkansas State. And the analytics dictate exactly why they failed. Their running game was completely non-existent.
Under 3 yards a carry, right?
Yes, they deployed multiple running backs, and the unit as a whole averaged under 3.0 yards per carry. No explosive runs, no physical dominance. The South Carolina offensive coordinator put it bluntly, saying, we didn't establish anything on the ground. That's unacceptable.
When you average under 3 yards a carry, you are essentially guaranteeing that your offense will be facing 3rd and 7 or 3rd and long all afternoon.
The ripple effect of that down and distance reality is catastrophic for a quarterback.
Because everyone knows you have to pass.
Exactly. Without a credible run game, the play-action pass becomes entirely useless. The opposing defensive ends pin their ears back and focus solely on rushing the passer, because they don't have to respect the threat of a handoff.
It's too predictable.
The offense becomes deeply predictable, turnovers follow, and upsets happen. We observed a very similar dynamic with Rutgers this week.
Oh, the A&M game.
Yeah, Rutgers established a physical identity, controlled the game script, forced critical turnovers, and dominated the second half to upset number 16 Texas A&M 56-38.
A huge statement win.
The Rutgers head coach said, "Nobody believed in us." That's fine. They believed in their physical identity, whereas programs like South Carolina and Texas A&M are floundering to discover theirs.
And this instability on the field directly bleeds into the highest stakes storyline unfolding off the field, the recruiting arms race.
It's all connected.
Because the entire sport is currently hyper-focused on one teenager, Henry Higbee. He is a 5-star recruit, the consensus #1 overall halfback prospect in the entire nation, and he happens to hail from the state of Georgia.
The battle for Higbee's commitment is the shadow war of the 2042 season.
Look at the top schools vying for his signature. You have his home state, Georgia, the Tennessee machine, Coastal Carolina, who, by the way, as a dark horse, just proved their offensive electricity by dropping 56 points on Washington, along with West Virginia and Nebraska.
It's a loaded list.
If I'm a Georgia fan, I am absolutely sweating right now. You have a generational talent, the #1 player in the country, sitting right in your own backyard. You try to build a fence around your state to keep that talent home. But if Henry Higbee looks at a struggling SEC running game like South Carolina's, and then looks slightly north at the 121-point machine that Tennessee has built, what if he decides to go to Knoxville to become the final, terrifying piece of their backfield?
That is the existential nightmare scenario for the rest of the league. A recruiting insider quoted in your notes summarized it perfectly. They said, if Tennessee pulls them, that's a dynasty move. Again,
The dynasty move.
it highlights the terrifying widening gap in the current college football landscape. On one side, you have proud programs spiraling from early upsets, or defending champions struggling to adjust their schematics.
Like West Virginia.
Right. And on the other side, you have an industrial powerhouse like Tennessee that isn't just dominating the present moment. They are actively utilizing that dominance to recruit and upgrade their next generation of stars. Success at max speed is incredibly intoxicating to a 17-year-old recruit looking to maximize his draft stock.
So as we synthesize everything you brought us today, what does Week 1 tell us about the rest of 2042? It tells us the top 25 is incredibly fragile.
Very fragile.
2 top 10 teams, #1 West Virginia and #8 LSU, already have losses on their resume. We learned that even defending champions can be swiftly exposed if they allow themselves to become one-dimensional.
Yep.
We learned that unhinged track meets will test the absolute psychological limits of title contenders like USC. And we learned that underdogs like Rutgers and Arkansas State are lurking in the weeds, perfectly ready to ruin the season of anyone who fails to establish a physical identity.
The early season is defined by this kind of chaotic volatility.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up our analysis of these files, I want to leave you, our listener, with one final, highly counterintuitive detail buried deep within these sources.
Ooh, okay. Lay it on us.
It's something to mull over as the season progresses. We spend a significant amount of time marveling at Tennessee's 121-point massacre, and rightfully so.
Obviously.
But if you look very closely at the granular box score provided in the team stats image, despite Peyton O'Brady throwing for 452 yards and 8 touchdowns, he also threw 3 interceptions and took 2 sacks during that game.
Wait, really? A Heisman frontrunner threw 3 interceptions in a game. His team ultimately won by 115 points.
He did, and it raises a profound philosophical question about the future of football strategy. In our relentless pursuit of the perfect, methodical, mistake-free offense, the kind West Virginia utilized to win a title last year, have we overvalued flawless efficiency?
Oh, wow.
Perhaps true dominance, the kind that breaks scoreboards and drops 121 points, isn't about avoiding mistakes at all.
Hmm.
Maybe it's about playing so aggressively with so much overwhelming speed and relentless firepower that your mistakes simply do not matter in the grand scheme of the game.
Wow. If you're operating at Mach speed, an interception isn't a catastrophic failure. It's just a temporary speed bump on your way to the next touchdown.
Exactly.
That completely shifts how you evaluate a quarterback's performance. The sound of that stadium going silent, it's not just about upsets. It's the realization that the fundamental rules of the sport itself might be evolving right in front of our eyes.
It's a new era.
Thank you for acting as our insider today, listener, and bringing us along for this incredible journey into the chaotic start of the 2042 season. Until next time, keep digging into those stats.